Alrighty, so for the first time in 11 days, I am back home doing a video in front of the big whiteboard. Of course, for the last 11 days, I've been traveling around the country, visiting 3 MLS venue in a span of 11 days. First going down to South Florida, then going to Orlando, and then eventually hitting St. Louis just a couple of days ago to watch an MLS game. And that there's no doubt that in the future I want to do something similar to that as well because eventually I'm going to try to hit my goal in terms of visiting every MLS stadium at least once in my lifetime. But that being said, today we are back in terms of doing the review of this past match week, which is the penultimate match week before we head to decision day. Yes, I know there's going to be two games that's going to be happening during the international break, but there's no doubt that there's a lot of answers that has been known, and there's definitely already some scenarios that we're going to play out heading into decision day with the way that, pretty much in the Western Conference, the playoff race is all but done. I mean, pretty much every team have clinched, every team that is below the red line have been eliminated. But the Eastern Conference playoff race, as I expected, is going down to the wire, and there's going to be four teams that's going to be vying for two spot, and I'll talk a lot about that throughout this review because just like I always do, I'm going to do a two-part review, and tomorrow I'll do part two of the review as well, looking at the last 5 games, including the two Sunday games that happened yesterday. With that being said, let us actually begin with the first game, and one of those teams that is going to be in that fight between four teams for two playoff spot heading into decision day is Atlanta United. So coming into this game, Atlanta knew they had to win this game against the Red Bulls. If they don't win this game, they were pretty much eliminated from the playoffs, and they did exactly that in this game against the Red Bulls. Now, the first shot of the game did see Hernandez hits one right to Cornell before Cornell denied Gregerson for the corner. And again, with the season on the line, it was a positive start for Atlanta. They were pressing to try to get the opening goal. Van Zier then missed wide as the flag came up for offside. And then Cabero would actually have a back heel that was clear off the line by Hernandez. So that would have been a spectacular goal if that one went in. But of course, it was clear off the line. The Red Bulls definitely have woke up. They were pressing to try to get the lead. Harper then missed wide from close range before Amador missed wide from close. Lobjanidze then puts it wide off a deflection on the free kick, and then TRA would miss wide from close in the 41st minute as Atlanta once again would put in the pressure, trying to get that crucial opener with their season on the line. Hernandez then hits one right to Cornell in the 43rd minute, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Harper would miss wide from close before Marenchik hits it wide from close range as both teams thought exchange some possession. But the question is, who can get that crucial opener? Well, before we answer that question, in the 66th minute, this is where we had some controversy. So, Sean Nealis, of course, was shown a doxo after he brought down Mosquera. This was a very controversial call, and I don't know if this was the right call. I mean, it looks like there were a couple of Red Bulls defender within range there to stop Mosquera, and that again, you only give dog so if you're very sure that that's one of the defender brought down an attacker and he's the last man, and I just don't think that was the case. Obviously, Red Bulls fans were not happy about this call, and I think that they definitely have some rights in terms of feeling very frustrated with this call. But nevertheless, that means the Red Bulls are down to 10 men, and Atlanta wastes no time to waste that opportunity to get the opening goal because they won themselves a penalty in the 75th minute as Ely brought down TRA in the box, which means Morenchek had a chance to step up to take to score on the penalty, and he does. So a huge 1-0 lead for Atlanta coming into the last 15 minutes, and then he was looking to try to get another, but was denied by Cornell. Schlitz then hits one into the side netting as Atlanta was definitely pressing for another, trying to get a second goal to seal a massive 3 points to keep their season alive. Though in the 82nd minute, as I said that, Serge Gomez would put the ball into the back of the net. Looked like that ties the game up for the Red Bulls. Problem was, VAR says that the goal was disallowed for offside, and this won't be the only time we've seen a goal that's been topped off because of the flag for the Red Bulls. And you just kind of had a sense that not only Atlanta got left off the hook, big time, but you said they need a second goal. I mean, the one goal doesn't seem like it's going to be enough, even though you're facing against a Red Bulls team that has been pretty snake bitten throughout this season in terms of finishing, and that kind of continued to the 4th minute as Elias Manuel would put the ball into the back net. Problem was he was in an offside position, so the goal, of course, didn't count. And again, I think these kind of moments, that was really big warning sign for Atlanta United, and they knew that they had to get the second goal to try to seal 3 points. And they did exactly that. Is in the 7 minute of stoppage time, Tyler Wolff would score for Morenchik and Rios to make it 2-0 in favor of Atlanta, and that was a huge second goal too, because just 7 minutes later, deep into stoppage time, there was a lot of stoppage in this game. Serge Gomez would put the ball into the back net from Frostburg to make it 2-1 in favor of Atlanta. The good news for Atlanta is that that goal was scored so late into stoppage time. There was really no time for the Red Bulls to come back. And yeah, in the end, Atlanta, they got a massive 3 points in this game. Again, if they would have dropped points in this one, they would have been out in the playoffs. But they're still alive in heading into decision day. And the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 6 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots on goal for the 6 that Atlanta has, 8 shots off target for the 1 that the Red Bulls had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 6 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Red Bulls has. And as I said, the good news for Atlanta is that they are still alive heading into decision day to, to hope to make it to the playoffs. Bad news is, out of those 4 teams that I'll mention that is going to be fighting for those 2 playoff position, Atlanta is in the worst position heading into decision day. They need a lot of things that need to go right. They obviously need to win the decision day game, and really relies on a lot of help above them, because it seems like in terms of the 4 team race, there's 2 teams that's sitting on 40 points, and I'll mention who they are, and then there's 2 teams that is currently sitting at 37 points. Atlanta, of course, is one of those teams, and that it's kind of the scenario where those 2 teams that's sitting on 40 points, all they need is a draw, and they'll make it. But if they don't get a draw, then it gets very interesting, and it can open the door for those 2 teams that currently have 37 points, because those 2 teams that it has 37 points, they actually have a better goal differential compared to those teams that is above them, and that all of those teams are only like 1 win separated. So goal differential seems like it could come down to it, and that's where those 2 teams that it is looking in the outside might have the advantage to do so. But again, for Atlanta, they need a lot that goes their way, but at least they stay alive to fight for the the one of the final position in the playoffs heading into decision day. And for the Red Bulls, the collapse continues. I mean, yes, the last game they had a great victory, but that feels like it's an outlier, because it just feels like this team has one and done written all over it. It feels like that So Metro moment is bound to happen in the playoffs. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is Montreal and Charlotte. So coming into this game, this is uh or this is a game between 2 teams that are considered to be one of the hottest team in the Eastern Conference, and quietly, I would say the hottest team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, for sure, Charlotte, it feels like that 4-0 win against New England has completely turned their season around. They look like the Charlotte team that we saw in the middle of the summer, looked like could be a dark horse, and that kind of continue as they were able to cool off against a Montreal side that looked like they were dead and buried a couple of weeks ago, and then they just kind of went on this random 5 game unbeaten run, and now, and even with this loss, they still are in a pretty good position in terms of making the playoffs. Now, in the first half, Abada with the game's first shot, but he puts it wide off the deflection before Ibrahim missed wide from close range. Shvedetsky then hits it wide from close, and then he had a free header there that hits right to Siwas. But there was no doubt that Charlotte was putting some sustained pressure. They were trying to press for the opening goal. Ibrahim trying to do so for Montreal, but he missed wide from close range. But then in the 34th minute, Charlotte does get that opening goal. And how about this? Karol Shvedetsky, all of a sudden, he's been red hot, and that has to be good news for Charlotte FC, because, again, it feels like a new signing for Charlotte, even though technically it isn't, because he was on loan in Europe, and now he's brought back to Charlotte. And even though he has really struggled when he came back to this Charlotte team, he's now started to find his foot and look like the Karol Shvedetsky that we saw in his first stint with Charlotte. So he scored here to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. Though it was not a great moment there from Jonathan Siwas. Again, just gave up a juicy rebound on a bottom shot. It's one that Siwas absolutely got to do better in terms of either pushing that one away or gather it. But Shvedetsky wouldn't care. He buries it to make it 1-0. Ibrahim did look to answer, but he missed wide in the 39th minute. But we do head to halftime with Charlotte leading 1-0. Keep in mind, Joseph Martinez didn't come into this game until the second half. That was kind of an interesting decision, at least for Laurent Courtois, not to play Joseph Martinez in this game. I mean, I understand that, yes, you want to rest some of your players, because this is the third game in 7 days for pretty much every single team in MLS. But you know, you're pretty much have not a lot of margin for error, and I feel like if Martinez was in this game, maybe it would have provided something on the attack. With that being said, in the second half, Marshall Ruddy hits it right to Kalina. I thought Montreal was on the front foot, but the problem was they haven't really quite created a lot of chances against this stealthy Charlotte defense. That again, not only the fact that Charlotte has looked like themselves again back in July, considered to be a dark horse in the Eastern Conference, but that defense has started to get their acts together. I mean, their defense has been relatively stifled in these last couple of games, doing this good run that they had down the stretch. So Martinez then had a shot that was blocked away in the 67th minute, and really as time winds down, chances were far from between. But that's kind of what Charlotte wants. I mean, Charlotte, this is a team that when they have that 1-0 lead, they're just going to completely lock it down. They're not going to give you any chances in terms of trying to come back. In fact, they actually did try to push to get that second goal as Siwas would deny Urso from long range, but then the fourth minute of stoppage time, Patrick Ajiman basically turned the lights out at Bank of America from Bronico to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. And that was the final score of this game as Charlotte continued this hot run, and all of a sudden they look like a team that is once again a dark horse in the Eastern Conference and could be a team that could surprise a lot of team in the East with the good run that they've been on. The shots in this one, 12 shots for the 8 that Montreal has, 1 shots on goal for the 6 that Charlotte has, 2 shots off target compared to the 4 that Montreal has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to just 38% possession that Charlotte has in this one. And, for Montreal, like I said, the good news is, even with this loss, they're still in a pretty good position in terms of making the playoffs. But bad news is we've seen this story before with Montreal, and it's a story that we've seen so often where this team heading into decision day, whether they're looking on the outside end or they control their destiny and they don't take care of business and end up losing in that game. Yeah, so obviously that's going to be something that I think that they're going to hope to avoid in terms of that narrative. Their next game, oh god, I didn't check who they of course play in their final game. I know they're playing at home, that is, but yeah, that should be very interesting to see how they're going to look in their final game. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match is Cincinnati and Orlando City, and there's got to be a lot of panic right now in the other Queen City because Cincinnati, they are on a free fall right now heading into the playoffs, and they do not look like a team that could potentially go on a deep run and avenge of what happened last season, losing in the Eastern Conference Final. Now, in the first half, it didn't start out well for Cincinnati either because just 10 minutes in, Orlando gets the lead. And in fact, I would say that this is a game that kind of just sums up how both of these teams look like they're going to be heading into the playoffs. Because while one team is look like in a free fall right now and look like they're not going to do, they're probably in deep trouble heading into the playoff. Orlando is the opposite. I mean, this is again just it feels like this is a repeat of last season for Orlando City, getting hot at the right time. Really just hope that they don't repeat what they did last year too, getting knocked out in the second round to the event winner Columbus Crew in MLS Cup. But yeah, they got the early lead 10 minutes in as Enrique would score from Smith to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando. That was also the game first shot as well. Kelsey did look to answer, but he hits the side netting before Acosta puts it wide off the wall, and then Buka puts it wide from close range in the 33rd minute. Cincinnati was definitely pressing back to look to try to get the equalizer. And then on the other end, though, Celentano absolutely robbed Enrique from close range. So that was an incredible save there from Roman Saltano. And then Enrique looked like he put the ball into the back net. Problem was the flag did not agree with him, and it remains 1-0 in favor of Orlando, and that was huge because just a couple of minutes later, Cincinnati ties it up. And when you're struggling in a game in recent form, who do you need to try to at least step up? Well, it's definitely Lucho Costa. So he scored here from Hadabi to make it 1-1 in this one. Yeah, this was a great goal there from Acosta, though you could argue Gillespie probably should have done better here. I mean, he kind of got cheating there. They're guessing where Acosta is going to hit and just getting completely flat-footed as that ball goes the other way. But nevertheless, Cincinnati needed that. The game was tied up at 1 apiece. Giacchini then looked to try to get the lead before halftime for Cincy, but he missed wide from long range. But we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 1 apiece. In the second half, not much really happened at the start of the second half. It's kind of been a bit of a cagey affair. Keep in mind, this could potentially be a matchup we could see in the playoffs, though, knowing that Orlando has been kind of rising up in the standings, there could be a case that that we might not see this matchup in the playoffs. But that being said, in the 66th minute, Orlando does make it 2-0. It's Angulo, the one that scored from Enrique and Smith to make it 2-0 in favor of Orlando. And yeah, that is one that Salatano would like to have back. And again, this is the thing I've said throughout Roman Salatano time with FC Cincinnati. The reason why I don't think he is considered to be one of the top five goalkeeper in this league, in my opinion, is that he has these kind of inconsistent moments. He has moments where he makes some big save in some of these games, and then just let one that you just kind of scratch your head of how in the world did he let that one in. And this is also an example of why he might not be right on the doorstep of the national team. I mean, I know he was, but these are kind of the inconsistent kind of thing that has to drive Cincinnati fans crazy, and it's got to be frustrating to see because ideally Roman Salatano can definitely be one of the top five goalkeeper in the league, but I just don't see it because of the way that these are kind of the moments I've seen before, not just this season, but last season as well, where for every great save or at least a couple of great save that Salatano made, he let one that is just not a goal that he wants to look back uh with prowess. But in the 68th minute, Assad did look to answer, but he missed wide before Enrique puts it wide from long range as the game started to really open up since the second goal of course scored, but who can of course get the clinical next goal. By the way, that's kind of a game that Orlando City wants to play, especially you have the lead on the road being open, playing an open game against Cincinnati. Though Oriano then hits one right to Galese, but in the 72nd minute Enrique would score again. He scored from Angulo to make it 3-1 in favor of Orlando City. Kubo did look to answer, but he well, actually he hits one right to Galese before Assad did also look to answer as well, but he was denied by Galese in the 75th minute. So Galese was having a really good game in this one, but there was no doubt Cincinnati was pressing hard to try to get one back. Galese then denied Origiano from close before Acosta, which puts it wide after going beast mode, pretty much gone by five Orlando defender. I mean, it's getting to a point where Lucho Acosta is probably tired to see how his defense are giving up goals left and right. That he's just gonna try to put the team on his back again, and we've seen it before that he can do that. I mean, there's a reason why last year he's gonna win. He won the MVP. Although this year I don't think he's probably gonna win the MVP. I don't think he had as a crazy season as he had last year. He can still show those moments that he's gonna put the team on the back, and he's definitely need to do so in the playoffs if this team has any chance of going back to the Eastern Conference Final. And again, despite the 2-goal lead, I thought Orlando started to play some prevent defense, kind of going in a little bit Rohit mode, Orlando, and that's kind of not what you want to do when you playing on the road, and especially again a two goal lead doesn't really mean that much nowadays in MLS, especially against a good team like Cincinnati, and especially when you're playing on the road. We've seen multiple goal lead that's been blown late in games this season. Torres then hits one right to Sautano before Oriano hits one right to Galese. Kubo then hits it wide from close before Oriano has the last chance, but he hits it wide on the free kick. But yeah, in the end, Orlando they win 3-1 in this one, and really this is a game that just kind of shows you one team was being more clinical in terms of their finishing, and one team wasn't, because Orlando's score only the three of the goal only in just six shots, as the shots total 20 shots compared to six that Orlando has, 5 shots on goal compared to six that Cincinnati has, 12 shots off target compared to one that Orlando has, 2 shots on the block compared to none that Orlando has, and possession wise 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Orlando has in this game. Another big win for Orlando, continue the momentum that they have heading into the playoffs, and themselves also kind of have some redemption story too. I mean, after last year disappointing in the second round, the hands of the Columbus Crew, they definitely want to go deep themselves, trying to lift that MLS Cup as well. But for Cincinnati, it just doesn't seem like that's the case. I mean, they gotta get this together. You do not want to head into the playoffs ice cold. We've seen this so many times before with team heading into the playoff ice cold. No matter where you are in the standings, you're not gonna last that when you face against a team that is just red hot coming into the playoffs. And yeah, Cincinnati got to get their acts together, because it's hard to believe that this team was considered to be an MLS Cup contender throughout the season. And yes, I know injury has been playing a big part to this team, but every team deals with injury, and especially from what we thought that this team is very deep a couple of months ago, they don't seem like they're deep at all with how bad their defense have looked. in the last couple of games, and really in the last month or two now. But now moving on, in terms of the last match on this board is Columbus and the Philadelphia Union, and I gotta say, every time when Philly play against a good team, they play that team hard, which is why if they do make it to the playoffs, I think they're gonna definitely give some tough time to some of these teams in the top part, and this is also where I'm pretty sure you do not want to face the Philadelphia Union in the first round if you're one of those top teams in the playoffs. And also, as I'll mention in a bit, if we're going to get a matchup between Philly and DC in the playoffs, even if that game is at Audi Field, that is definitely one opponent DC do not want to see in the playoffs, because that's the team that they have had no good history against them, and has just kind of getting owned by Philly throughout the year. But that being said, still Columbus does get the win in this one, and it helps the fact that they score an early goal in this one. And guess who's been red hot? Coming into the playoffs. Yep, it's Cucho Hernandez. He scored from Chambos to make it 1-0 in favor of the Crew. That was the first shot of the game. It came off of a set piece. That was kind of the theme tonight, where the Union just had no answer in terms of the defending set piece, and especially defending Cucho on the set piece. Blake then denied Ramirez from close before Herrera missed high from close range. Cucho then puts it over the bar from long range. The Crew definitely shot out of the cannon in this one. Like, this looked like it could be a little ugly, consider how the Crew were playing. They were absolutely rolling in this game. However, Sullivan did try to chip Schulte from about 40 yards out, and he didn't miss by much, but just missed high there. And then in the 25th minute, the Union ties it up. It's Nathan Hariel that ties the game at one apiece. Schulte did make a good original save, but again, just the Crew didn't clear their lines enough, and Hariel was there to mop up the mess there. And yeah, that ties the game up at one apiece. Chambos did look to respond, but he was denied by Blake on the other end, and then Ramirez puts one right to Blake in the 38th as the Crew was pressing back to try to retake the lead. They do, as in the 41st minute, Mo Farsi would take the lead back for the Columbus Crew, and really kind of almost a carbon copy of the goal that they conceded against the Union, where again, just it was a good save originally from Andre Blake, but the Union this time didn't clear their lines there and falls to Mo Farsi, who cleans up the mess. And yeah, that made it 2-1 in favor of the host. Baribo did look to respond, but he heads it right to Schulte, and then there was a shout for a handball that was not given to the Columbus Crew, but we do head to halftime with Columbus leading 2-1. In the second half, Hariel puts it just wide from long range. Schulte then denied Uru in the near post as the Union. I thought they started the better side coming out of the half. They were pressing to try to get the equalizer again. Though, as I said, that Blake did deny Cucho from close range, and then he hits one or hits one right to Blake on the following corner. Again, defending corners were a problem for the Union, especially marking Cucho. They had no answer in terms of marking Cucho on the set piece. To be fair, it's not easy to mark probably one of the toughest guys to mark in a set piece. I mean, the movement that Cucho offer probably among the best, if not the best, in the league. We then go for a period where not much really happened, which is kind of weird because there was a lot of action in this game. And then in the 76th minute, guess what? It happened again. As Cucho would score from Chambos to make it 3-1 in favor of the Crew. It was pretty much a carbon copy of the first goal as well. The Crew just had no answer in terms of defense in Cucho, especially in that front post. Though that two-goal lead lasted barely 2 minutes, because in the 78th minute, Jack McGlynn would pull one back for the Union from Wagner to make it 3-2 in favor of Columbus. And then he looked to try to tie it just 2 minutes later and just flashed it wide from long range. We know Jack McGlynn can hit those long range effort, and he almost completely turned this game on its head with those long range effort. And again, just like that, momentum was right back to the Union. The Crew were kind of stumbling a little bit. To try to seize out this lead. Gasak would then puts it into the stands in the 87th minute, and then McLean had the last chance. He hits one right to Schulte on the free kick. But yeah, in the end, Columbus, they hold on to win 3-2 against the Union. The shots in this one, 19 shots committed, 11 that the Union has. 6 shots on goal for the 10 that Columbus had. Both teams had 4 shots off target. 5 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Union has. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession the Union has in this game. So yeah, the Union, they play well in this game, and again, they have shown before when they do play against those top teams, they can go head to head against them. But the problem is, can they of course get to that point? Because again, them and Atlanta United are sitting on 37 points right now. They're 3 points behind both DC and Montreal for those spot, and they really need to rely on one of those teams to 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 um to lose their game, because if one of those teams lose and they win the next game, then they're in the playoffs. But the problem is the next game that they have is against FC Cincinnati. I say it's a problem, but it kind of isn't, because Philly has matched up with Cincinnati very well. And with the way that Cincinnati, I don't know if they're gonna maybe rest some of their starters, considering the fact that no matter what happened on decision day, Cincinnati looks like they're gonna finish third. Third. Well, I don't think it's gonna catch Cincinnati on the final day. There could be a case where the Union still have a shot of making the playoffs, but they will absolutely need to win that game against Cincinnati and hope either Montreal or DC stumble and lose their game as well. But that being said, I am now going to switch forward and look at the last four games to finish up part one of this review of this pivotal match week number 37 before the big decision day of the 2024 MLS regular season. All right, so moving on, in the next game is New England and DC United. And speaking of DC, of course, they get a massive win in this playoff six-pointer, and really a game where, obviously for New England, they had to win this game, just like Atlanta. Their playoff hopes is on the line. If they don't win this game, or even draw this game, they would be out of the playoffs. And unfortunately, unlike Atlanta, New England wasn't able to get a win against the DC to keep their playoff hope. And it doesn't help the fact that they found themselves 2-0 down just 8 minutes into this game. As in the third minutes of this game, Santos would score from Rodriguez and click to make it 1-0 in favor of DC. And what a goal this was. I mean, just from a really tight angle like that it was an absolute banger there from Pedro Santos to give DC a 1-0 lead. And then just 5 minutes later, guess who it is? It's the leading Golden Boot player, Christian Benteke. Looked like he's on his way of potentially winning that this year. I mean, who would have thought that would be the case in the beginning of the season? I mean, I know Christian Benteke is still could be a good player, but I did not expect he could be this good this season, with potentially winning the Golden Boot this year. But he scored from Bartlett to make it 2-0 in favor of DC, and he can thank the New England backline for this. I mean, just some miscommunication at the back that led to Ivicic coming off his line a little too late, and because of that, he paid the ultimate price. He didn't get to that before Benteke hits it into the empty net, and it was a dream start for DC. 2-0 up, just 8 minutes. An absolute nightmare start for New England, who again, they had to win this game, and to go down 2-0 just 8 minutes into the game, that is not a recipe for success, and it looked like they're staring down the barrel for elimination. Ku DiBietro then tried to make it 3-0, but he missed wide there before a heel with the Reds' first shot, but he blasted back Boston in the 24th minute. Benteke would head one right to Ivicic before Pirani would miss wide from close in the 32nd. Besides that one transitional moment that Carlos Hill got it all wrong for the Revs, it's been all DC up to this point. And again, for a team that is playing for their playoff life, they definitely don't look like that was the case for New England. They look like they're flat out gave up in this game. Though that being said, in the 41st, or in the first minute of stoppage time, it looked like Yusuf at least gives New England some hope by putting the ball into the back of the net. The problem was the goal was disallowed for offside, as it hit his own teammate who was in an offside position. That moment just kind of sums up the New England Revolution in a nutshell this season. I mean, if there's not a moment that perfectly sums up, that might be the moment. And just like that, DC was able to hold on to the 2-0 lead heading into halftime. Now in the second half, Bono would deny Barrero from close, and then Veroni just missed a tap in the front post. Much better start for the Revs, I think, in the start of the second half. They were on the front foot. They need to get one back, and really need 3 goals to try and win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. And then the post, though, on the other end, would deny Enel from long range. But in the 74th minute, there was some hope for New England, because Matti Padola unfortunately scored an own goal here. Forgot that he doesn't play for the Revs, because it was a great header there from Patola. Problem was it was in the wrong net. So yeah, that gave New England some hope. It seems like that hope really gave them some spring, because they started to press hard for the equalizer. Heel had a free kick that was punched away by Bono. As I said, New England pressing hard to get the equalizer. DC was just trying to hang on for a massive free point. Nacho Hill then puts it high from the header before Ivicic would deny Miro to keep New England in this game. But unfortunately for New England, they're out of the playoffs. They lose this one 2-1 against DC. The shots in this one, 13 shots for the 11 that DC had, 4 shots on goal for the 2 that New England has. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 7 shots on block for the 2 that DC had, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that DC had in this game. And with the way that DC was able to get a win in this game, I think Toronto is also out of the playoff as well, as they mathematically won't be able to improve where they are in the standing. I mean, this basically knocked them down into to 10th place, and yeah, that pretty much seals their playoff hope as well. And by the way, as of today, we still have not heard anything about Caleb Porter. We know that we already have one head coach that's being fired, and in fact, I'm gonna be making a moving forward series episode after this, and I'm gonna do one a little out of order because I want to talk about Austin FC and how they announced today the firing of um of of Josh Wolf, their first ever head coach, which seems like that feels like it's been long overdue. But that might be the same case for Caleb Porter as well. Again, it's hard to believe that he has survived this long, considering he looked like for many time this year he's the first man out, but he's still there, and we'll see whether or not if New England may you make another big decision as well. Because again, it's been an absolute failure for New England this year, and as we'll talk about in the moving forward series episode, they might be one of the most disappointing teams this year. A team that looked like had some MLS Cup aspiration with the way that they're getting back healthier this season, and it just completely collapsed for them in this game. Although I would say that is the case, but keep in mind, when Caleb Porter first took charge of the crew, they didn't had a really good first season, and then the second season things kind of worked out for them. And the same case when Caleb Porter took charge of Portland about a decade ago. So I think that's what New England is probably banking. They're hoping that, second year Porter will guide them to the promised land, but it doesn't seem that that's the case, especially how bad this team has played. They would need some big signings to really overturn the fortune of this team that, again, this is going to go down as one of the most disappointing team this season, the New England Revolution. Now, moving on into the next game is Minnesota and the Vancouver Whitecaps. So, yeah, the Loons, they're starting to get hot right at the right time, and that again, they continue to show that we'll be fine if we're playing on the road, especially in the playoffs. So I will say that in this game was kind of a tale of two halves. I thought Minnesota was the better team in the first half. The second half, really, Vancouver kind of dominated, and Minnesota started to kind of go on a little bit back to old habits of that row heave mo kind of thing that I always mention, and that this feel like it's a very Adrian Heath kind of game, and I thought that they weren't going to hold on. But if there's one thing I will say about Minnesota this year under Eric Ramsey compared to when they were under Adrian Heath, when they have these kind of row heave mo kind of game, more times than not, our Eric Ramsey team is able to hold on to a victory compared to when Adrian Heath was taking in charge and keep doing these row heave mode of just kind of sit on a 1-0 lead and hope that that's enough to get all 3 points. Now, early on, Oluwaseyi did have the game's first shot, but his shot was deflected wide before Sunbin puts it right to Takaoka. Much better start, I think, for the Loons in this one compared to the last game. I have a feeling the reason why they want to get off to a fast start is because, they know fatigueness could be a factor late in this game, and maybe that also kind of plays to the fact that that Minnesota was being a little bit defensive late. It feels like they were running out of gas late in this game on a 3 games in 7 days. And keep in mind, this is a team that doesn't usually um rotate a lot in terms of the of just a complete rotation that we've seen. We've seen a lot of lineup changes, but not just massive rotation that we see Eric Ramsey does for this team this season. But in the 17th minute, Pereira did puts it wide from long range, and then he hits one right to Takoka in the 20th minute. I really love what Joaquin Pereira has brought to Minnesota. The only thing that I will criticize him, at least in the early part, I wish he was a little bit better in terms of his finishing. But I'm assuming he'll eventually learn that. Though I also are not expecting that is the case, because when Reynoso was here, and I'm using the Joaquin Pereira as a comparison to Reynoso, which that seems like a big comparison, consider what Reynoso did to this Minnesota team all this year. But Reynoso wasn't known to be a goal scorer, or at least for a while before he went that crazy run in 2020, and maybe that kind of might be the case for Pereira as well. That being said, in the 22nd minute, Takaoka did deny Oloshai from close range. The shot were 4-0 for Minnesota early in this one. So Minnesota was all over Vancouver early in this one, and they were rewarded with that pressure by getting a penalty as the Broda brought down Harvey in the box, which allowed Hassani Dotson to score in the penalty spot. Keep in mind, Yeboah did not start in this game. He actually started on the bench in this game, and I think that was the right call. Consider you want to give Calvin Yeboah a little bit of a briefer and hope that Tani will get things going. Unfortunately, Tani didn't really quite get get going in this game, but what who did get going is Hassani Dotson. He buries it from the penalty spot. All of a sudden, Hassani Dotson has scored a couple of goals. I mean, most of them has from the penalty spot, but he's not a guy that is known to score goals. And I did not expect him to be the designated PK taker. And again, I always assume it's Robin Lud the one that does it, but yeah, Hassani Dotson has looked good from the spot, at least in the last two games. He fires it to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. And again, it's been all Minnesota 30 minutes in. Vancouver still yet to register a start. It was just a very flat start for this Vancouver team. And then it looked like really completely against the run of play. Tapia looked like gifted a goal for Vancouver, but fortunately for him, VAR bailed him out because there was a foul. That goal commit on Sunbin. Yeah, that was obviously the right call. I don't know why the Vancouver announcer basically said that they didn't see anything out of that. I mean, it was pretty clear that goal kind of swing his leg and connect something there. That always is going to be called as a foul. So yeah, Tapia's got left off the hook there. That would have been very devastating for Minnesota, considering they play so well up to this point. And then although Australia would have a shot that was deflected and goes wide, Vancouver would finish the first half with zero shot. It was just a very uninspired performance for a Whitecaps team. That again, this is the thing about this team and why they might be one of the biggest fraudulent team in the playoffs, where they haven't beat anyone so far this season, and it feels like the one and done is staring down at them again this year. Now we head to halftime with Minnesota leading 1-0 in the second half. Marcanic puts it wide from the header, so Marcanic actually got a start in this game. It's kind of hard to believe that some of the signings that we have so far in the summer, some of them hasn't really got a start. Like Marcanic is one of those guys. What in the world has happened to to Kemet guy? I don't know why he hasn't gotten any minutes for this Minnesota team so far. But that being said, in the 48th minute, the first shot of the game did see Vancouver or the first shot of the game for Vancouver did see Adekube hits it right to Dane Sinclair. The Whitecaps, I thought, started to get some possession, and the Loons started to kind of backing off a little bit much. And this is when I realized, oh boy, looks like it's Rohith Mo time for this Minnesota team. Vite had a shot that was deflected and goes right to Dane Sinclair before White just missed a free header on a diving header in the 57th minute. That was very lucky for Minnesota because more times than not, Brian White is going to connect to that. Vancouver was definitely putting some sustained pressure. Loon seems to be on row Mo for the rest of the game. This is when you start to see that the Loons were getting fatigue because of the free games in 7 days. Goal then missed wide on the free kick before Adekube hits it right to Dane Sinclair. And Savane did had a rare chance for Minnesota as he was in on goal, but he was absolutely raw by Takoa. It wouldn't have counted either way because the flag went up there. Then there was a brief check to see whether or not if there was a handball and a penalty for Vancouver, but VAR of course says no. Then there was a huge shout for a penalty for Vancouver that was not given not long after before Rosales had a chance to seal it, but unfortunately he hit the post in the 5th minute of stoppage time, almost like your typical goal where Minnesota has that 1-0 lead and they seal it late in the game, as we've seen time and time again this year. But nevertheless, Minnesota does win 1-0 in this one, as the shots in this one, Minnesota pretty much doubled the amount of shots and the shots on goal as well. 16 shots for the 8 that Vancouver has, 2 shots off on goal for the 4 that Minnesota has, 3 shots off target for the 2 that Vancouver has, 3 shots off blocked for the 8 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that Minnesota has. And with this win, most importantly, Minnesota has moved out of the play in spot. Now moving up to 7th position. Now, obviously, Vancouver does have that game in hand. That game in hand, of course, is against LAFC, and we'll see whether or not they can win that one to get themselves back into that 7th position. But there's no doubt that that's good news for Minnesota to not have to play in a playing round. I mean, it's always important not to have to play in the playing round. Consider who you might face in the next round, where you have to play against the number one seed, and the number one seed is the Galaxy. Who, yeah, I don't think Minnesota would want to play the Galaxy. To be fair, when I look at where Minnesota could potentially face, they don't really have like a lot of good opponent that they can face, at least in the first round. I mean, if they get into the seventh seed, they get to play LAFC in a best of three, and with the way that LAFC has been kind of rolling, I don't know if Minnesota could survive in that series as well. But honestly, I kind of don't care if they could survive or not. They're playing house money right now, Minnesota. Again, this is a team that I did not expect coming into this season to make the playoffs. This was supposed to be a transitional year and the beginning of this long term project that Eric Ramsey and this team is building. And the fact that they're able to make the playoffs, again, it feels like it's house money that this team could be playing. And that there's absolutely no pressure heading into the playoffs to see how far they would go deep. But unfortunately, you can't say the same thing about the Vancouver Whitecaps. There is definitely some pressure to at least win one playoff game, and as I said, this team has one and done written all over it. Between this team and the Red Bulls, I just don't see how this team can move on into the next round, because they have shown that they have not beaten anybody this season, and at least barely beaten anyone that is above the red lines. And that, yes, Vancouver has done a good job in terms of capitalizing, beating against teams that are not going to make the playoffs. But if you cannot beat again these good team in the regular season, there's no chance you're going to do so when you get into the playoffs as well. But that being said, moving on into the next game on this board is Sporting KC versus LAFC. So, like I said, the reason why I say want to say Minnesota might not have a favorable matchup against LAFC is because LAFC is absolutely rolling right now, and they've shown it in this game. And this is kind of one of those games where usually we don't. It's hard to believe I say this, but usually when we see a matchup between one team that's doing very good and one team that is pretty much in Cancun mode, I wouldn't say that it would be a matchup that would be just kind of mostly one sided, but that kind of is the case, at least in this game for the most part for LAFC. Now, early on, Bouanga would puts it wide from close range before Voltaire had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. There was a couple of half chances for both of these teams early, but no real shot that tests either the goalkeeper. But a penalty was then given to LAFC as Bassan brought down Holland's head in the box, um, which allow Bouanga a chance to bury it, but he was actually denied by Tim Melia there. But unfortunately, David Martinez in the right place at the right time to just pretty much blast that one into the upper 90. I mean, that was a great finish on the rebound from the teenager. But yeah, that made it 1-0 in favor of LAFC. Polito did look to respond, but he hits this one right to Lloris, and then Russell would hit it right to Lloris in the 34th minute as Sporting was trying to push back to get the equalizer. But in the second minute of stoppage time, LAFC take a 2-0 lead. It's Kike Oliveira that gets the second goal for LAFC. There's criminal defending there from Sporting KC. I mean, first Melia make a great save here, but just this is kind of a sign when you know a team is clearly in Cancun mode and clearly they don't care about the rest of the season. When we just see pretty much every Sporting KC player, as soon as that ball rebounded to Oliveira, nobody even tried blocked it. They literally just walk. Oliveira hits this one into the empty net. If I was Tim Melia, I would be absolutely livid with his defense, and I wouldn't blame him either, because can you imagine you're a goalkeeper and make a great save and nobody is there to even try to get the rebound or even try to maybe make a block on the second effort. I mean, that just kind of shows the sign of a team that clearly has checked out this season. But we do head to halftime with LAFC leading 2-0. In the second half, Giroud puts it over the top with an outstretched leg before I thought there was not much really chance created in the beginning of the second half, but OAFC wouldn't mind. They want to lock things down heading into the remaining of the second half. Tommy would then hit a one hopper right to Lloris, but then in the 69th minute, OAFC would make it 3-0, and it's a very unlikely source too. It's Aaron Long scoring from Eddie Segura to make it 3-0 in favor of LAFC. A rare moment where you see two center back kind of combined, and it wasn't like one of those ones where maybe one of the center back flicked to the other center back. This was almost like an attacking sequence where there was just two defenders kind of combined with each other. That is something you usually do not see very often, and I did not know Aaron Long can strike it like that, like an attacker. Like if you wouldn't have guessed that Aaron Long was not an attacking player after that, I wouldn't blame you because that looks like it's a striker finish rather than a center back finish. But in the 71st minute, Showery would hit one right to Louise before Hollinshead looked for a fourth goal, but he missed one. The post then denied Tommy from long range in the 81st minute, but in the end, LAFC was an easy 3-0 win against Sporting KC. The shots in this one, 15 shots to 11 that Sporting KC had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 4 shots off target for the 2 that Sporting KC had, 4 shots on block for the 5 that LAFC had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that LAFC has in this game. And again, it just feels like this is a game between two teams that heading to with different aspiration. LAFC is definitely looking to trying to get back to MLS Cup, trying to conquer MLS Cup again. Whereas for Sporting KC, they're definitely thinking about Cancun and already think about next season as well. Now, that being said, moving on into the last game, and this is the game that I attended on Saturday in St. Louis between St. Louis City versus the Houston Dynamo, which, by the way, in that quick recap, I literally forgot to mention the third goal that was scored by St. Louis late in this game. And it's a shame that I forgot to mention it because it was a great story to not only see Jake Nowinski score a rare goal, but potentially could be his last home game as a St. Louis City player. And I want to mention that because he's one of the player that was on the original St. Louis City team from the very first year, or actually one of the first signing that is. There's actually a lot of St. Louis City player that was on the first year team, but a guy that has been kind of battling a lot throughout his time with St. Louis. Great to see that he scored a goal there, and his teammate even acknowledged that. You can see they were going absolutely crazy to see him scoring late in this one. But that being said, in terms of this game as itself, yeah, again, this I've said this in the recap, and I'll repeat what I'll say in this review. For St. Louis, it's great that they of course get a good finish in late into the season to carry the momentum heading into next year as well. But if you're a St. Louis fan, I mean, it's kind of conflicting feeling. You're happy that that's the case, but again, you just feel like if they would have made those move a little bit earlier, to bring in these new guys, again, this team could have legitimately be have a chance to make the playoffs. And if they do make it to the playoffs, this could be a very dangerous team heading in to the playoffs as a lower seed. Now, early on, Hartel would puts it wide from close range in the second minute before I thought St. Louis was on the front foot. They were looking to try to get an early opener. There was a shout for a handball from St. Louis, not given, but then in the 14th minute, St. Louis would take the lead. It's Simon Betcher. He scored from Teuscher and Horn to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis. It's safe to say that acquisition of Simon Betcher that St. Louis got has worked out very well. Again, a lot of the summer acquisition that St. Louis has had has really worked out very well there, and Simon Betcher is definitely one of them. In fact, those two guys that combine, Betcher and Teuscher, those are going to be two foundation pieces for the St. Louis team heading into next season. Dorsey then looked to answer, but he flashed it wide as I thought Houston started to control possession, but they really couldn't find a lot of success to crack this resolute St. Louis defense. I even mentioned the quick recap. This is where they really miss Hector Herrera. Hector Herrera has that ability to break in a resolute defense, and because they don't have him in this game, and they also don't have Aman Bassi as well, they just look very toothless going forward on the attack. We go for a period where not much really happened with a lot of fouls and whistle that was being blown. Yeah, there was just so much stoppage. There was just no rhythm to the game. There was more times where I see players basically lying on the ground trying to practice the dark arts than actual things that is happening. And for a neutral, it's kind of frustrating to see because I want to don't want to see these kind of moments where the game is very stop and go because of it. But that being said, in the 40th minute, Wattswood puts one into the stands from long range, and we do head to halftime with St. Louis leading 1-0. It didn't take long for them to make it 2-0, as in the 48th minute, Simon Betcher would score again. He scored from Hartdale to make it 2-0 in favor of St. Louis. Houston got a taste of their own medicine. Just getting caught on the counter, committing way too many men forward, and it was just a simple long ball there for Marcel Hartdale to play Simon Betcher, and yeah, Simon Betcher on a 1v1. I mean, I originally thought that maybe Clark could save that because Clark is a very good goalkeeper on 1v1, but Simon Betcher has just been red hot. He was not going to be denied, and yeah, that made it 2-0 in favor of St. Louis City. Kowalczyk did look to answer, but he puts it wide. Houston continued to dominate possession, but again, that's just not the game that they want to play, especially they don't have the playmaker to do so, and instead they're just getting absolutely rip apart on the counter because of how many men that Houston was committing forward. Berkey then denied Karaskia from long range in the 69th minute. Very quiet game for Karaskia. I mean, they were hoping he was going to be the guy that carries the attack, but he didn't really showed up that much throughout this game. That was, I think this is the only chance that he actually had that actually forced a save from Roman Berkey. And then Berkey absolutely robbed Ferreira from point blank effort in the 72nd minute. I mean, what a save this was. I couldn't even believe when Roman Berkey saved it from the stands, but this kind of just a reminder of why he's the goalkeeper of the year last season. And while he's definitely regressed a bit this year, he can still make these kind of save that kind of still bring in the conversation of him being one of the best goalkeeper in the league. But there's no doubt that the Dynamo was starting to build some pressure as they were looking to try to get one back. Berkey then denied Kowalczyk from long range, but then in the 80th minute, Franco Escobar would get himself a second yellow card of this game. This is not a big surprise because throughout the game, we've seen Franco Escobar has been kind of shown a lot of big temper. I was kind of surprised he wasn't being subbed off because of it, because it just looked like he was a walking uh, red card out there. And yeah, no surprise that he got himself sent off as a result. Berkey then denied gains, but did give up a big rebound, and Blessing had a chance to hit this one into the empty net in the back post, but instead he clashed this one onto the post and missed that one. So yeah, that has to be a double whammy for the team Blessing. Not only missing that chance, he kind of misjudged this bounce when he's trying to hit it into the empty net, but not only not connecting that, but even flash yourself to the post. That is going to be a very painful one. And again, that moment just kind of sums up Houston tonight. Just no quality in the attacking end. Then in the 90th minute, we saw Moreno miss wide from long range before in the second minute of stoppage time, St. Louis would make it 3-0. And again, what a good story this is to see Jake Nowinski not really rarely get on the score sheet, but he scored here from hardtail to make it 3-0 in favor of St. Louis. And that was the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 11 shots for the 15 that Houston had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 4 shots off target for the 2 that St. Louis had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession the Dynamo has in this game. And yeah, again, for St. Louis, it is very positive that they finished the season strong, but again, we'll see whether or not if that can translate into next year. We have seen before where teams finish the season strong, and it's never always a guarantee that you think that it can translate into next year. Though I think with the pieces that they got in the summer to booster their team, there's no doubt that I think that this team could be dangerous heading into next year. And as for the Houston Dynamo, I've been saying the quick recap. I think this is one of the worst road games that they played. This does not look like a Dynamo team that we've seen that is one of the most lethal team on the row. And yes, I know they were missing some of their key guys in this one, but Ben Olsen team has shown that even when they're missing guys, they can still scrap away with something on the road, and they just kind of didn't show that in this game against a much more confident St. Louis side. Well, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of all of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of all of these games. Tomorrow, I'm going to finish up reviewing the last 5 games, and I'm also planning to do a moving forward series episode not long later in terms of talk about one of the team that not only got eliminated but also had their head coach got end up in the chopping block today in just a bit. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.